Welcome to Workshop Live TV with your host, Dan Hofmann, featuring Monk's Gig Bag and select Workshop Live artists.
Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Dan, and this is Workshop Live TV. Well, some say the birthplace of jazz was New Orleans. Others say New York City. But would you believe the small town of Lenox, Massachusetts hosted a thriving jazz scene, which led to jazz becoming a mainstream genre in American music history? This is Music In, and from 1950 to 1979, it was home to many of the greatest names in music. In the early 50s, artists like Dizzy Guillespe, Billie Holiday, Woody Guthrie, and Pete Seeger played here. In a minute, we're going to take a look at the amazing history, both musical and cultural, that was created here. But first, let's see what else is coming up on this edition of Workshop Live TV. First, we'll sit down with jazz pianist Dr. Billy Taylor, who will fill us in on the early days at Music In. Next, it's off to the gig bag, where Monk will explain the importance of connections on the gig. We'll meet photographer Lee Everett, who lived and worked at Music In during its rebirth in the early 70s. We'll visit the Teacher's Lounge and talk to Workshop Live keyboard teacher Donald Sosin and find out why silence is music too. Next, we'll find out what's going on with Workshop Live jazz guitar teacher Tom Dempsey in our Live Light feature. And finally, we'll talk to former Music In owner David Rothstein for the inside scoop on concert life during the Inn's magical heydays. All that and more coming up on this edition of Workshop Live TV. Stick around. Music In was started as a jazz school in 1950, when a New York City couple, Philip and Stephanie Barber, bought the property and created a space to promote the serious discussion and performance of jazz. World-class musicians like Louis Armstrong stayed at the Inn and took part in jazz roundtables that eventually led to jazz coming out of the Smoky City bars and onto the world stage. Legendary keyboard player Dr. Billy Taylor absorbed that fostering atmosphere, and here's what he said about Music In during a recent interview right here at Workshop Live.
And so for this place to be open in the summer and to have people who were classically oriented from one side and people who were really just straight ahead, either self-taught or really people who were coming from a different point of view as far as jazz was concerned, it was just a wonderful opportunity, because you would see, well, I never thought of that. I mean, why, how did this guy come up with that idea, Mm-hmm. And you don't do that in school.
Now, the couple who started this whole thing, Philip and Stephanie Barber, did you get to know them at all?
Yes, they were very, very nice people, and very hospitable for us. They invited me up on many occasions to play and to talk. Well, one of the reasons they liked to have me come up was because I was one of the few guys that had a college education. I really felt that this was something that really should have been done by more people and should have been put into the school system, and it wasn't at that time, Mm-hmm. So I was very delighted that they said, well, come on up and join us. We'd like to have you come in and you talk about what you do and show us what you're thinking about, and maybe we can help in some regard, And they did.
And then in what sense do you think that this had some kind of greater influence beyond just what was happening here in Lenox?
It had a tremendous impact, because all of those the people who were here in the summer came back to New York and to other places and began to talk about the things that they were doing and how they were doing. And there was an excitement that really had not happened like this before. And the barbers are to be congratulated in that regard, because they really focused in bringing this together. And this was a part of something that we all thought should have been there, but the barbers were the first to come up with a practical way of helping us do it.
Berkshire Living Magazine senior editor Seth Rogovoy conducted that interview. Thanks, Seth. Now let's check in and see how Monk gets connected during a show. It's time for Gig Bag.
Welcome to another episode of Gig Bag. Whenever I teach someone about sound, I tell them to keep it simple. The fewer things between you and the audience, the better. That includes a sound engineer. Hey, if you don't need one, don't bring one. You know, it's that kind of idea. The simplest of all setups is you with your instrument. No mic, no amp, just your natural sound. Okay, what if you don't want to play acoustic? No problem. Instrument, cable, amp. Simple. Oh, the Metal Zone crush pedal, yeah. Instrument, cable, Metal Zone, cable, amp. More pedals? Drum machine? Computer? Mixer? Oh man, look out. Remember though, each thing that gets between you and your audience has the capability of messing with your message or your connection with the crowd. Now, a long time ago, I was working at a theater. The house manager had a simple wish. He wanted the lights to dim, the music to swell, and the curtain to open. Nothing should interfere with the performance and the magic created until that curtain closed. The audience should be picked up and whisked away by the artist, and only brought back to reality at the end of the show. Technical difficulties can interrupt the magic. Now, having said that, there's nothing wrong with a boatload of effects to make your own sound. Go ahead, bring 2 full-size flight cases of pedals and a rack of computer equipment. Just be prepared when something goes amiss. Work around it, go on with the show. Come on, that's what makes live on stage such a thrill. Once you're out there, there's no safety net, like the practice space. If that wireless rig gave you problems during rehearsal, skip it for the show until you got it all sorted out. Make sure those connections are solid and you're not using an adapter into an adapter, onto an adapter, and then an adapter, and then, an adapter. If something does not need to be in the signal path, get rid of it. It's just one more thing to create interference. Good cables, solid connections. This is your mission. Keep it clean and simple.